Hello, party people. It is February 11th, just a couple days before Valentine's Day. And happy to see you. How's everyone doing?
Doing pretty good,
All right.
all things considering. Um, yeah, just finally back in California, SoCal area after weeks and weeks and weeks of traveling. So that's
Yeah, we've been on a
nice.
tour.
I know. So
Uh,
finally made it back, which is nice.
yeah, we've been at Sundance. Then we went and met with our technology partners on the new platform. And then we were at Super Bowl, or at least Super Bowl adjacent.
Yeah,
Uh, No, Jesse was not the streaker at the Super Bowl for all those asking,
I should
uh,
have been.
but he should have been, and he should have taken that money on Kalshi and could have put that all
Yeah,
into marketing and sent packet to at least $1.
yeah, easy money. All you had to do is drop maybe 150,000 bucks. Could have gotten a 3 to 7x ROI. Easy win.
Easy money right there, you know.
Yeah, yeah, for
Have they
sure.
determined whether that guy was a winner?
Yeah, he
On
won. A couple people won, and he's
No, but
banned
is it
from.
determined that he bet that he was a better on being a streaker, or if it was just
Supposedly, yeah. If he didn't do it personally, someone in his camp did it for sure. I actually know one of the sports handicapping guys that I follow is friends with him, and so he told his whole community to bet on there being a streaker because he knew that his buddy was going to do it. So so yeah, they did, and yeah, and that guy's banned from ever attending a football game ever again. So hope it was worth it.
well, if he
Lifetime ban.
if he made that 50 racks, then maybe it is.
Yeah, I don't know. Uh, and then, but yeah, we're got some good movement today or yesterday actually on our transaction. So finally, things seem to be heading in the right direction. I think we should be about a month and change out from closing at this point, because the as far as the timelines go, as soon as they provide us access to the servers, which looks like it will be this week, most likely. They said it would be last week, but looks like it'll be this week. That starts a 5 week clock. So that's kind of the timeline that's commencing hopefully any day now. And yeah, and then we got, I mean, just an unbelievable amount of work. I know everyone, tuning in for this um, is just sitting on the sidelines waiting for something to happen. That meme with a stick poking, being like, do something. But yeah, there's a unbelievable amount of work that needs to happen this week, or this year, I should say, to kind of get things going. So um, we've been circling the wagons, kind of gearing up for what that looks like, and it's a lot. It's a lot of undertaking. But I think the coolest thing that I've noticed, having now traveled for the last 3 weeks, talking about the project with a lot of people, is just everybody's interested in what this is. And being that we're acquiring a well known brand, I would say 8 out of 10 people have heard of the brand as we talk to people about it, maybe even 9 out of 10. And that's, yeah, super encouraging. So it'll be definitely news and noteworthy. And I think we'll see a lot of people just around the business side of it itself, really getting involved. In terms of where it intersects with PKT, that's going to be a whole effort to bring Packet into it, because the crypto world is just in shambles right now.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, it's dark days out in crypto land. Um, kind of kind of depressing to be honest. I mean, unfortunately, it has not been a kind environment for crypto. It's funny because I think when people looked at the Trump administration coming in, they were like, "Oh, he's going to be very favorable to crypto, and so it should be a favorable environment for crypto to thrive." And it's been the absolute opposite. Well, it's been a favorable environmental or regulatory environment, I should say. Um, there's just so much grift and scamming and fraud and malfeasance from the exchanges, that, yeah, just like anybody who is just an average hodler, investor, and certainly anybody who is trying to build anything that had any longevity in this environment has just been throttled.
I
Well,
um,
crypto's
wonder.
always riddled with fraud, so it's just unfortunate that now the fraudsters are the exchanges.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
They can just,
wonder if the what was floating a lot of like the NFTs and altcoins and meme coins that were just popping was money laundering downstream of stuff like US8 or whatever, and then Dodge came in and cut all of that, and so now everybody's poor, and so they don't have money to launder anymore, and so now all of that like NFT craze, it's all gone because there's no money to wash.
yeah. Well, we know the USAID thing uh, is just a red herring. I mean, that was I mean, the idea, I think a really strong conservative Republican talking point is that that was rife with some sort of like fraud and that helping, developing nations and underserved, communities globally, that there was like, that was like grift. I don't think that has anything to do with crypto. That's my personal opinion. I think conservative folks and people who, delve in those environments might disagree with me. Um, or people who just like listen to anything that Elon Musk says is to be the truth, which I think if you've learned anything over the last year, it was that everything that Elon said he was going to do had nothing to do with the stated purpose, and it was all just about how he could get richer. And if there was anything that was accomplished over the last 12 months, it was that Elon Musk was going to get his pound of flesh for the 300 million he invested the to politics to increase his net worth, and that's what he did. He went in and slashed every regulatory body that could have potentially impacted any of his businesses, fired everybody,
I think
and
they did impact his businesses, and so he got his revenge.
yeah, yeah, and then he like doubled his net worth. So he. If you want to talk about scamming and malfeasance, and look no further. But Musk made probably the best investment of anybody in the history of the world, putting that 300 million in, and then making what, like 400 billion or 500 billion over the last 12 months. So good for him.
Smart guy.
Um,
He's a real smart guy. Real good
and
manager.
then the best part of it is that I think he's responsible for like a million deaths over the last year by his actions of removing all the aid and support that the United States provides internationally. And obviously, Doge was a complete scam. He saved absolutely $0. And Yeah, that was just
Well, I
another
mean, if you're going to
failure.
talk about deaths, then you got to bring up Gaza, and then that's going to be a whole
Well, yeah,
nother
but
can
that's
of
30.
worms.
That's
So,
30,000. But that has nothing to do with Elon. We can't blame
sure,
Elon
sure,
there. Right?
but I mean, you can't claim to care about people overseas unless you're gonna face that can of worms, and that's a
No,
big
no, no,
mess.
no, no, no. I'm just talking
It
about
is what
cause
it
and. I'm
is.
just calling. I'm just talking about cause and effect. I'm talking about cause and effect. I'm just saying he went in, axed USAID, claiming it was fraud. Didn't actually find any fraud, and yeah, all the people that receive aid from that are now not receiving aid, and that there's a direct cause and effect there. And obviously, by terminating all of the supervision and regulatory bodies that were governing his and overseeing his organizations, work across all these different categories are now gone. And then I would say his biggest accomplishment is just data harvesting every single American's personal data and turning it over to Palantir. I mean, that's probably one of his biggest accomplishments for his buddy Peter Thiel. And yeah, it's just grift and grift and
through
grift. And as it relates
through Starlink,
to what's that?
through Starlink or what?
No,
No.
Palantir. Yeah, he went in and grabbed all
Okay. So
of the
yeah. Well, we knew at the time of the election that Thiel was going to be huge and Palantir will be huge because like they
right.
don't trust the NSA. So of course they're going to use Palantir.
Right. So they privatized all of our information. So basically, Musk went in to the Social Security office and other places, grabbed all the data, turned it over to AI, and then and then said, "Oh, hey, I failed at Doge," and then just backed out and disappeared. So that's what really was accomplished there. I mean, absolutely $0 in savings. And no one really cares about savings. No one really cares about fraud. That's just a buzzword. Because there's no more, the greatest example of fraud is right in front of our face. I mean, so that's, if we really cared about that, that would be something people would take action about. But people don't care about it. They just care about the buzzwords. Um, and I think, anyways, back to how it relates to crypto, all you're seeing is just leverage liquidations left and right. And we realize that that's just a gambling environment with leverage trading. But like the exchanges are just doing it with impunity at this point. There's just absolutely no, rhyme or reason for these liquidations at this point. And so I think hopefully people learn that like the leverage environment is just gambling, and all the exchanges want to do is just cook, anybody who's a trader. But what that's ultimately done over the last year is it's just spooked and scared away all the retail because of the volatility. Like there's just no rhyme or reason for volatility. And even if you're not a leverage trader, putting in an investment and having it go down by 50 or 80% every other day is just hard to stomach. And so it's spooked over the last 12 months. Anybody who is interested in crypto from a longevity standpoint or an investment standpoint is just gone.
And they put it all into gold and silver, which is what we're seeing. All
Maybe.
that money go into gold. No, we're not. Maybe we're definitely.
I'm
You
saying
can't.
retail. Retail's not
No,
in gold and silver.
I would say retail isn't gold and silver. The
I wouldn't.
people who were putting money into crypto, because you look at crypto as like, oh, this is the hedge, and the people that are buying the tops of crypto, which is what makes crypto go astronomical through the roof, those are the people that are buying the top. The only reason why gold and silver keep going up is because retail starts piling in at the top and making all new all-time highs, and all that money that would have gone into crypto, where little Joey goes to Thanksgiving and says, oh, he just 10x his money, and then grandma comes in and puts her money at the top of Bitcoin and buys the top off it. Like that's how crypto is always run. And what you're seeing instead is that people are putting money into gold and silver, watching gold and silver hit all-time high after new all-time high, which is then getting financial planners and all these financial gurus who are kind of helping you manage your funds, saying like this is a safe hedge, a great place to put your money. And gold and silver is so accessible through through Robinhood and through these different
Yeah.
places where
I
you can buy
couldn't
it.
disagree with you more. So the difference is between you really can't compare crypto and precious metals because of the size and magnitude of it. The people that can move a market in precious metals is, I mean, you're talking about nation states. You're talking about, it's just on a different level. Like we're watching the equivalent of trillions of dollars move around in the metals market. I mean, I think it's up like 10 trillion. I mean, it's just like these are numbers that are so astronomical that there's no chance that Billy and Joey are moving those markets. I don't care how much money you have. Like you're not making a blip in the gold market. I think what's happening is on a much more macro scale where you're looking at China and, major, I mean, you're talking about like countries moving money around, reconfiguring the way that these reserves are being governed and utilized, and it's just on such a bigger. I think we're seeing something on a macro level that's so much more significant. Now, of course, can you go on a YouTube video and say, hey, this is a great place to invest, and like someone puts 100 grand or 500 grand into something, sure, but that ain't going to move a market. Now in crypto, it's different because, the entire Bitcoin market is like $1 trillion. You know what I mean? So it's like if you have people around the world, we know that institutions are, in the and the ETFs are moving large amounts of money around, and they have the potential to impact it. And I think you've always said a really good statement, which is that like even if you look at the institutions outside of like let's say like Michael Saylor, who's the biggest holder of Bitcoin, but uh, if you look at the institutions, they still don't have as much as the early Bitcoiners that, accumulated massive back in the 2010s and 2011s and probably have huge stockpiles and can move markets. And certainly we know the exchanges like the Binances of the world can manipulate the market any given day. We've seen them do it. We've seen the winter mutes, these market makers and the big exchanges that can just manipulate the market. They can all do coordinated dumping and move the market. You can't really do that with regards to metals unless you're like JP Morgan. And
Right. But we did see
Yeah,
JP Morgan do that.
that's what I'm
And
saying. JP Morgan it can manipulate like what they did with the silver market, where they needed to unwind their short positions and flooded the market and, just basically committed fraud, which by the way, they'll probably end up paying a fine for, and it'll be way smaller than what they would have lost if they got cooked on that short squeeze. But yeah, I mean, it's just these are the type of levels. I'm just saying pedestrian investors aren't touching the metals market. I just don't
well,
think they
I
can.
think that they might not be changing it, but a lot of the people that were interested in crypto like a few years ago, these days I see the posts on social media and they're all like silver, 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 silver.
Sure.
So that's where
Yeah.
everybody that was
yeah,
in crypto went. Um,
Yeah. I'd say
I'm
there's
not
probably
saying that,
interest.
that
Yeah.
they're the change maker for silver, that they're the ones that are blowing it off the top of the thing. I'm just saying that the money that was in crypto, where people were speculating, buying shit coins and fucking Bitcoin and Ethereum, and yeah, it was a trillion dollars, but it actually was $2 trillion now. $1 trillion left the crypto ecosystem and went somewhere. It didn't go into bonds.
Or
And
got
so
vanquished is what it got. I mean, when it goes down, that money just does that. The money doesn't move out.
only if
It
you're in
moves.
leverage, but people
No, no,
are,
no, not leverage. No, no, no. I'm saying when like if you're sitting on a Bitcoin, right, at 100 and you bought it at 100,000, it goes down to 60 and you sell it, you lost 40 grand. The 40 grand is now lost. It's not like, it went somewhere. It just literally is
oh, you still
gone.
got 40 grand that didn't just go to cash and go pay your mortgage.
No,
It
no, no. I'm
went,
saying it's gone. You
but
sold, so
Yeah,
you're
well,
out.
I'm saying the
it's
other
like
40,000 that,
if it goes from like 800 billion and it goes down to 400 billion, for instance, it doesn't mean that 400 billion actually went somewhere. It's
Right.
just that
That's what I'm
there's
saying.
nobody lining up to buy at this bigger number. People are
Right.
only wanting to buy at the smaller number. So
Yeah.
it
That's
doesn't
what I'm saying.
really mean that money actually went anywhere. That some money did go somewhere, but
Yeah.
not the number of the size of this change of market
That's
cap.
all I'm trying. That's all I was trying to say. But yeah, look, I actually agree with the statement that you're saying, which is that probably the nascent interest that was in crypto after everyone got so harmed over the last 12 months by the crypto industry and everything's lost so much value that you probably are going, hey, whatever money I had, if I'm investing it into something, I'm probably putting it into something that's more stable, and whether that's precious metals or just other investments, domestic or international, are certainly better investments than crypto right now. And it'd be
I'm
hard.
not sure
It'd
about
be,
that.
what's that?
I'm not sure about that. I think right now is actually a pretty good
Yeah,
time
right
for
now is
crypto.
a great time to invest in crypto for
Yeah,
sure.
I mean it's
Buying,
down, but um, the silver like gambit that just happened, and a bit gold, but mostly silver. It was, as far as I can tell, what was going on was U.S. banks like J.P. Morgan were super short, and somebody like China figured out that they were super short and said, "Okay, all we have to do is take delivery of like
Yeah.
X amount of silver, and they're going to be screwed." And they did it, and then a bunch of like gold bug types kind of jumped on the train. The problem with the gold bug types, I mean, it's their problem, but their problem is that they always take physical delivery to their house, and you can't get rid of that stuff. You have to go to a pawn shop, and you get like 20% off spot. So they do that, but if you played the silver market recently on paper and you bought it and then you flipped it at the top, then good on you, because that was a really cool short squeeze. And obviously short squeezes don't last forever, but that was one that you could have made a lot of money off of.
Yeah. Yeah. That was, and I mean, it's still, I mean, besides this dump from above $100 to back down to, 60, $70 in silver, it's still up 300% over the last, 6 months, so still, that trade's still up, and I still think that's an interesting trade, the silver trade. And then people are starting to look at some of these other metals, from titanium to copper. I mean, I think you needed to be in those trades 2 years ago, as well. Um, and yeah, where does gold go from here? Like, does it go back up over $5,000 or not? It's kind of hovering
Yeah,
right
they're gonna
now.
print
Yeah,
money. We know
yeah.
that.
Where is it hovering at right now? It's at like 4,800 or 4,900 or something.
Five, five oh
Oh, it's
four
at,
eight.
oh, what's that?
There you go. 5,048.
Okay, so it is back over 5,000.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's still a good place to, be. Obviously it would have been better if you bought gold a couple years ago at 1,500, $1,600. Um,
Well,
and you're up 300%,
I think that the play, if you want to if you want to make the most money, the thing that people did with silver that pushed it up over $100, there what you would be looking for is industrial commodities that are in short supply, like where the demand and the supply are really close together. It's hard to expand supply. And I mean, you wouldn't want to go into like wheat or something because it's just so much of it is being produced. But copper is definitely an interesting one because it's just hard to expand copper production, and it is very much in demand. You have to look at like how much copper is just sitting around that can be liquidated
Hmm.
as the price goes up, and what you're looking for. I mean, you could buy a dozen different things, and um, 10 of them don't perform at all, and one of them just goes parabolic, and that would still be a pretty decent decision. And because we're in this like inflationary environment where there's a whole bunch of short pressure on all these commodities, and they're just there's low supply, and it's just looking to pop into a short squeeze. We don't know which one's going to do it, but when one starts to go, it's just going to feed back on itself because everybody jumps on the bus.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good point, So, I mean, I guess back to the question of like where we go from here on the crypto front. I think from our standpoint with regards to Packet, with the market cap so far down, and obviously all people are doing is either fleeing these, altcoins, or just the fact that ETH is having the worst, stretch of, you know, uh, price action in maybe its entire history over the last 3 years. But and being that Packet's now directly tied to ETH, it's been very difficult to kind of get any type of real trajectory and price action. But from our standpoint, we've always wanted to focus on utility, and I do think that when we do turn this corner, specifically on the utility story, there will be some basis for people to use, use their packet for actual purpose. And then, of course, obviously, some speculative nature of it. What kind of impact that's going to have, we'll never know. But until we launch it and do some marketing around it, but we're certainly excited about that as well. And so that'll at least give us like an anchor, and purpose, again, which will be fun. Certainly fun for us to focus on again. And that was kind of the whole, the nature of it. But I think from a macro crypto economic standpoint, you'll want to see some directional movement in the market as a whole. And it's hard to say with where Bitcoin is right now, when things are going to bottom out and get moving again, in a positive direction. So, are we in an official bear market right now? Yes. And it's definitely, I think officially bear market territory, where it's precipitously dropped over 30% in a short period of time. Obviously, Bitcoin's down by, I guess, 50% straight up, right? Approximately. And off the high. That high was in October, by the way, so it's only over the last 90 days that Bitcoin's dropped 50%. And hopefully,
Typical crypto.
yeah, and hopefully this is a place people want to start, buying. Do I think? I mean, maybe Josh, maybe you win your bet with Jeremy, and it gets down. I don't know if it gets to 50, but it seems like it would. You might. Does your bet cash if you hit like 58? Like, is it just if it gets a 5 in front of it, or does it have to go to 50?
I'm pretty sure I win, first of all, if it goes to 50.
Oh, so Josh
It was
loses?
Josh bet that it wouldn't go to 50.
Oh, okay.
I bet that it would.
Okay.
So,
and you said, was
think
it
that
supposed to go to 50, 50, or is it anything with a 5 in front of it? Like if it goes to 59?
I think it's anything with a 5.
Oh, now it's changed. We're gonna have to go back and
check the
revisit
transcript.
Check
the transcript. Yeah.
Yeah, I said it was going to go down to 60.
Yeah, so if it goes down to 59, I win.
We'll see. We'll see.
Well, we hanging on with the thread because it went down to like 62, so it got real close. But I mean, for sure, if it gets down to the 50s, I mean, there'd be no reason not to start deploying heavy, and that's a great buy.
Yeah,
that's a great entry point for sure.
I remember the last time it was like 20, 18, 20,
yeah,
19,
17. We saw it at 17.
I bought a
like
Bitcoin at 16,000 at the last.
You bought a full Bitcoin at 16, Josh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good
and some change, but yeah, basically 16.
That what I remember from that period was you had lots of opportunities. It sat there and it sat there and it sat there and went a little down, it went a little up, but it gave lots of confirmation that it was finished. I mean, that was my gut instinct about
Well, it only went down to 16 for a second. That was when I got the 16,000, that was when the FTX thing was just on absolute nuclear meltdown. I was just watching it, and luckily I had a bunch of cash right there. I think I bought that.
Yeah, I think it hung out more in that like 20 to 22
yeah, it did.
range.
It did, but 16,000. That was a day. That was like.
Yeah.
And I think I bought it. I was like in bed and I watched it get down there, and I like in my underwear fucking bought a Bitcoin. It was a great trade.
I didn't buy one, but I bought a little bit when it was like 22, and my feeling was it had given. I wanted 16. I remember I wanted 16, but that wasn't happening.
It wasn't 16 exactly, but it was like 16.1 something.
I probably put a buy at 16 and never triggered.
Yeah,
the wick came up.
It was low 16s though. It was give or take a couple $100 maybe.
Yeah. But my memory from it was that it really was very clear that this is it, 2022, whatever.
Yeah.
So I mean, you have to be quick if you want to catch 16, but if you're okay with, 20 or 22, there was a lot of indication it was there. And so we should expect to have plenty of notice about where it's bottoming out next time.
Yeah.
We can at least hope.
And
Yeah, I would agree
22
with you.
was a great buy. He'd
Yeah,
love to be
22
able to
was
get
good.
22.
Yeah, 22 was a great buy for sure. That time period, we bought a bunch of, I think we bought, yeah, 3 or 4 Bitcoins at that level. And yeah, that
We
was a
should have
good
done that
level.
$1 million trade I fucking called though.
I know. That was a big regret we didn't do that. That would have been the best trade ever. Um, but we do expect that we'll hang out in this level for a little bit because there's kind of nothing on a macroeconomic basis that really is driving any positive sentiment in the marketplace today. And so I think, part of this crypto reaction and price drop is probably related to the announcement of the Fed chair that Trump announced. I'm not sure because he seems like he's a positive guy for crypto, so I don't know why it did
The
drop so
reason they're saying
dramatically.
is because he's been, because he used to be in the Fed, and they're saying that he's usually pretty hawkish, and at least in a lot of like the things that they voted on, and so people aren't betting the house that he's going to go and be this huge like slasher of rates and things like that. That's what I've gathered.
Hmm.
But he is pro crypto, and
But
which is good.
hawkish,
Hawkish means you're
Well,
not like willing to just go slash everything. Pretty much.
when they announced when they announced him, that was when gold, silver, and everything just went off a cliff simultaneously, and the dollar increased
right,
strength. So
right,
either either this is natural, which probably it isn't, or they kind of put together a program to pump the dollar on the back of that announcement. You never know
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, they always use those announcements to do, sleight of hand things, and everyone just looks for some reason to, do to move the market, because they can hide under an announcement or pretend like it was trade related, when it was really just a plot to move the market. But yeah, I don't know if everything's correlated. There will be like a positive correlation to the fact that he either wants to drop rates or doesn't want to drop rates when he hasn't even been confirmed. And, yeah, and the market just unwinds and Bitcoin drops $20,000. So I just don't know. But and we won't ever know.
Well, we
That's
knew
the point.
something was going to happen because things were getting pretty chaotic. Like with
Yeah,
silver, they can't just print the dollar away to nothing. At least not in one shot. There
right.
has to be some stops in the process.
Yeah, but we know that. Look, that Trump, you know, likes what China does in devaluing their currency, and so we know that Trump's trying to do the same thing here. And I think a lot of the people who control a lot of wealth, um, you know, there's some trade there that makes sense to certain folks, um, and I also think there's this kind of backdrop of trying to manage the ballooning debt, um, in America, which, by the way, if we really cared about, like, you know, saving money, um, you would see that reflected in anything with regards to reducing spending. But I mean, the debts continue to skyrocket, and we've done absolutely nothing to reduce that whatsoever. So all the savings, all the Doge savings, didn't reflect, aren't reflected anywhere near the ballooning, deficit and debt of America. So, yeah, just going to be an interesting next 2 years to see what, if anything, ends up happening with regards to the economy that can positively impact average people on a global basis, right? We certainly know that the rich are getting richer, but can the average individual, get a leg up over the next 2 years? And that's yet to be seen, because certainly ain't nobody gotten a leg up over, if you're making under $1 million a year over the last 12 months. your your economic outlook is definitely not good. And then yeah, and then how does that relate to crypto? I think from our standpoint, we're not impacting the market from a macro standpoint, but can we offer real value and utility to regular people? And I think there is a cool story that can be told there, and I think there's some touch points that directly relate to what our mission statement is with Packet going forward. That should be um, hopefully impactful to the market cap of Packet, and bring some purpose back to the project, and also just getting more people involved with it from a daily basis. That gets us pumped. I mean, that was, I think, the most rewarding part of heading out to Sundance and spending time around the Super Bowl, and specifically in the sports and streaming world. Um, that regardless of economic conditions, um, these industries, persist. People don't stop watching TV, and people don't stop using their phones, and people don't stop watching sports. Regardless, and I think that's a kind of a positive um, thread in terms of why we would continue to focus in those areas in particular.
And on that note, let's keep this one short and sweet. Thanks everyone tuning in. Stay tuned.
If
Over the
anybody
next,
has any questions, pop them in the chat. If they have anything specific, asking, oh, what's happening next? Like, we try and jump on here to talk about that type of stuff and kind of keep everybody informed on the transaction and outlook. But if there are any specific questions, we're happy to answer them. So we're always in the chat and always poking around.
yeah. All right. Have a
All
good
right.
day. Talk to you
Wishing
soon.
you guys all the best. See you guys next week.